There are moments, events, or experiences that we have that change our life. Sometimes for the better, we hope, and even sometimes for worse. And we usually can recognize these moments once we look back and say, yeah, something happened there, and my life changed after that. Would you agree with those statements? Yeah. Okay. Sometimes we go looking for the change. We want something to happen in our lives. We're looking for it. One example with that would be of a woman I know, her name's Maureen, and she went to college to be a school teacher. And she graduated from college with all her credentials. And after college, she went and got a job as a cashier in a grocery store. Her dad was interested in her reasons for doing that. And so I went to her and said, honey, why the cashier in the grocery store? You look for that job. She says, well, Dad, I not only want to be a school teacher, I also want to be a wife and a mother. And I don't think that I'm going to meet too many available men in grade school. So we live in the D.C. area, and there are a lot of young professional men around here, and that's where I think I'll meet them, is in the grocery store. So she went there, and you can only imagine what she did every morning when she got up. She got dressed, put on her best face, and went over there and was kind of attentive to the people who were coming through her line, which isn't a bad way to be all the time, but anyway, I'm sure that's what she was doing. Until one day, this guy comes through her cashier line, and he comes through 4 times. The 4th time through, he says, well, we're practically good friends now. Would you mind going out on a date with me? And so that's what they did. And today they are married. They have 5 children, and she is teaching school. She went looking for it. Other times, things just kind of happen to us. They come to us when we're not really looking. Lots of examples of that. I'll just choose one. Remember some time ago I talked about my own vocation story where it came down to choosing football or choosing to serve God, and it was a tough decision at the time, believe it or not, and finally decided to let go of football and to go serve God. So that was in high school. Graduated from high school, went to the novitiate, and then I went from the novitiate, I went to St. Louis University for my first year of college, still in the seminary, of course. And after my first year in college, I decided that I needed to get a job because I had proved to myself that I wasn't hiding in the seminary from work and taking responsibility for my own life and all that. So I got a job at a moving and storage company. And there were some other college guys working there too. And after summer, I went back to school. At registration day, we went to register for our classes. And I bumped into a guy who had worked with me at the moving and storage company. His name was John Clark. And John comes up to me and says, did you hear St. Louis is starting a football team this year? I said, no. He said, yeah, I signed up. You ought to go check it out. I said, okay. And I did, and went up and ended up playing 3 years on the team. And after that, was able to hang up my cleats and be happy about that. It might not seem much to you, but it was a lot to me at the time. You know, I was willing to give something up, and then it came back. God's not to be done and overdone in generosity. But anyway, I'm talking about these kinds of things because that's what's going on in today's reading. In the gospel, you got 2 disciples, it's Andrew and the other one's probably John, who are looking for something. That's why they're with John the Baptist. They're looking for something more in their life. So they're with him, and they think he's the one. And he says, no, I'm not. That's the one. The Lamb of God. Follow him. So they start following him, and Jesus turns around and says, now what are you looking for? They said, well, where do you stay? Meaning, where can we stay with you to learn from you? And he says, come and see. And that's the invitation. Come and see where there is life. Come and stay with me a while. And that radically changed their lives. And Andrew went to his brother Peter, and they came and brought him to Jesus, and that radically changed his life too. So sometimes we go looking for it, and sometimes we don't. Like in the first reading. Samuel was, they figure, about 10 or 11 years old or so. He's sleeping in the temple, minding his own business. God comes and calls him, hey, Samuel, and Samuel comes and runs to Eli. And that happens 4 times. You'd think Eli would know better, but he didn't. He didn't catch on, neither did Samuel. And after the 3rd time, Eli says, well, next time that happens, say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. God calls again, 4th time. And that's what happened. He said, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And that changed his life radically. He was the first of the major prophets, moving from the time of the judges to the time of prophets in the Old Testament. Wow. Now, we have to ask ourselves, has God stopped speaking to us? What do you think? I didn't hear you. Okay, this side says no, this side's not sure. Okay. I think no as well. God still speaks to us. He wants to communicate with us. How much better if we would go looking for it? And if we go looking for it, how much easier would we find it? Please, God, help me. I don't know where to go in my life. I'm having trouble. I need some guidance. And I know that still happens. The people, for example, have been in the Adoration Chapel, and they've come out and talked to me every once in a while. They just talk about it, and they say, well, I went and prayed this week, and I made a decision, and told me what the decision is, and it just makes a difference, and they start doing something new. Something changes in their life, and they're being led by God. God still wants to do that. And how much better if we are open for it, we're looking for it, we can hear it. There are other times when we're kind of like Samuel. We're kind of sleepwalking through life. And not really looking. We're just not closed to things, but not kind of aware of what's going on, or not really seeking anything. And somehow it comes to us that something can be different. Often, for me at least, and I've heard from other people, it happens that a person, and then 2 or 3 or 4 more come up and tell us the same thing in a short period of time, and it's like, well, wait a minute, this is too weird. I know my provincial years ago came up and said, I'm asking you to be the novice master. And I said, I don't think so. And he said, well, think about it. And then 2 other friars, completely knew nothing about the provincial, came up to me and said, I think you ought to be the next novice master in the province. And I went, nuts. It comes at us from different sides. We hear something. How much better if we listen? It comes through other people. It's happened to me enough where something like this will happen. Same kind of thing. Several people over a short period of time might say, you look like something's troubling you. You okay? It's, no, I'm just fine. Another 2 or 3 people say the same thing, and it's like, okay, it's time to look in the mirror. Maybe I'm showing something that I don't even know about myself, and I need to look at it. I need to kind of open my life to God's presence, whatever it is I might be struggling with that other people see. Not to sleepwalk anymore, to wake up. Say, speak, Lord. Your servant is listening now. This also could be a real important thing to keep in mind as we face this time in our church. I don't know if you saw the paper this morning, but there's a front page article about the bankruptcy, church filing for bankruptcy, and it's a long article. And without a doubt, our local church is going through some struggles, some tough times. In that article, the writer talked about two different responses people of the church are having. One lady says, this has always been a human and divine church, and we're all saints, part saint and part sinner. That includes me. And I'm sticking with the church. Not confirming, condoning the sinner part, but believing in the divine part. God's part in the church. I'm hanging in it. The other lady says, I just don't know what to believe about religion anymore, and I'm not going to church until they get things straightened out. Basically, she says that. I'm not judging her or either one of them. But the question is to us, are we going to hang in there, or are we going to stop for a while? Personally, I don't think that I can do the best part of my life by trying to do it alone. As many as mistakes as the church has made, it's my church, it's my family, I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there because of faithful people like you. Walk together. And together we listen to the word of the Lord. And together we celebrate his presence, enjoy his love and his mercy. I'm hanging in it. I could get a job someplace else, I already know that. I'm hanging in there for much deeper reasons. And we all are called to hang in there with God in all situations in our life where we're aware of our own lacking, our own need to go looking for it, and other times to be attentive to it. But at all times say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.